Welcome to the very first episode of Culture Shock, the show which looks at art, music and culture from across the globe. We're coming at you live from the studios of the National Film and Television School. I'm Emma-Louise Amantia.
And I'm Sarah Mackenzie. We've got an exciting week of live shows planned for you. And yes, what a politically charged show we're kicking off with tonight. Pick up your placards, put on your leather jackets and ripped jeans, because we are going on full protest tonight on Culture Shock.
We're asking you at home to tweet us with photos of your favourite protest march signs using the hashtag CultureShock. So send those in and we might feature them tonight in the show.
On the show tonight, documentary maker Nicola Ivanovsky will be discussing his new film on anti-immigrant violence in Italy. And we'll be treated to a performance by the fantastic spoken word poet Banana Sharma.
And, as well as all of that, we'll be taking a look at Ian Hislop's I Object exhibition at the British Museum and the inspirational Battersea Beatbox Academy that is driving young people to get involved with art through rap and theatre.
But first of all, we're kicking off live with some indie punk fizz from the fantastic Citrus and their new single, Take Out.
Comfy at home with fish and chips, waiting for the specials that don't exist. Are you done yet? Have you done yet? You gotta go there with my rosy lips, and there's something about the way she moves her hips. Are you bored yet? Is it a joy yet? I'm tired of seeing this shit go downhill, it's becoming a bit of a bore. Give how many others, she keeps coming back for more. Oh, you've done it now. Oh, you've done it now. I put a finger to my lips. There's no excuse you can't resist. Oh, she got you ready now. Oh, she got you ready now. But I'm the one that's taking her hips. She's out of your mind. Can we give it a miss? Can we give it a miss? What you've done now, Sergey, you left her in a little bit of a state. You get the odds on so long, can't tell what's real at this rate. Your mask is wearing heavy. Do you want to force this lady beside? You're keeping it down with the hurricane we run. I'm tired of seeing this shit go downhill, it's becoming a bit of a bore. You've how many others, she keeps coming back for more. Oh, you've done it now. Oh, you've done it now. I put a finger to my lips. It's always you can't resist. Oh, she got you ready now. Oh, she got you ready now. But I'm the one that's taking her hit. She's out of your mind. Can we give it a miss? Can we give it a miss?
You can download or stream that on Spotify or Apple Music right now. And Citrus will be playing live again for us later on, so make sure you stick around for that. You don't want to miss it.
But now, Conrad Murray has been running the Beatbox Academy at the Battersea Arts Centre for 10 years. It encourages young people of different backgrounds from across London to engage with theatre, art and music. We went along to one of his workshops to talk to him about the Academy, politics and class in the art world.
My name is Conrad Murray. I'm a storyteller, a performer, an artist, a director, a writer, a beatboxer. I grew up in a council estate in Mitcham, South West London. The Beatbox Academy can inspire kids from working-class backgrounds to get involved because anyone can do it. It's just using your mouth, it's getting some beats. You don't need any training or any prior kind of background. You just got to want to come and have a good time, like music, and it's free. You don't actually need, we don't have to use words, that's just a provocation. You might want to start off making some music first. So Ali might sing something, Park might put bass under there, you might want to start jamming to it, and then Snoop might say, oh, I've got a lyric here. So you can write lyrics for one person, and you can all have different kind of lyrics and words. Any more questions? We good? Cool. I'm quite open and honest about having a social worker, not having the best childhood, and I think that it lets other working class people know that these things are normal and other people go through it, and yet you can do that, you can still get along with your life, you can still direct shows, be a performer and be involved, and I think that my work allows them to know that unlike a council estate, no one's really into performance or arts, and probably had no business hanging around theatres, making performance, whatever. Being like working class, you don't really think you can do it because where are you going to get the training, how do you get involved? So it's very hard to kind of express yourself and know where to go because there's no precedent. I didn't know of anyone else kind of doing what I wanted to do and being involved in theatre and performance. I think it's very important that artists talk about class because other kids like myself who live on council estates whose parents maybe haven't got the most amount of money or who are working but like low wages need other people to say, yo, I was working class and I did it, and you can do it as well.
In my mind today, I feel I will obey. The dream goes on in my mind today, I feel I will obey.
I think music and theatre can change the world because art kind of helps people see the world in a different scope, a much bigger scope, and we feel it. I think just telling people, do this, vote that way, you should do this, this will change the world, doesn't. But I think that people experiencing it through art, it affects you in a much different way, on a much deeper level, in a spiritual level, than just dogmatic, kind of do this and that. I think the world would be a lot better place if that was the case. You can be a bus driver with the spirit of a dancer, be a plumber with the spirit of a beatboxer, that they have a voice, they have a story, use it, it's powerful, create art, create beats, create music, create theatre and use those stories. If you go to watch films, if you go to listen to music, a lot of the stories are our stories, but it's told by middle class people. And it's like, that's your currency, tell your story, own it, own it. If I ain't gonna do it, who's gonna do it? I ain't seen a story like mine before, but it's very usual. Loads of kids have social workers, grow up in a council estate, have abusive, alcoholic parents. Loads of people have that. But if I don't tell the story, the next kid isn't gonna do it, the next person isn't gonna do it and do it in a better way than I've done it, I always think I want the next person to tell it a lot better and a lot more poetic way and just it's not gonna stop all the problems in the world, but it might make you feel a bit more accepted.
Really inspirational stuff there. Make sure you take a look at Conrad's website, which is conradmurray.org, for more information on his workshops and shows. His adaptation of Frankenstein will be touring across the UK next year, so check that out. And now it's time to get up to date with the world as we head over to Sarah for a look at today's edition of the Daily News Break.
We start with music today. The Beatles have released a lavish box set to mark the 50th anniversary of the release of this, their 1968 masterpiece, The White Album. Most of the songs were written during the time at a transcendental meditation retreat run by the Maharishi Mahin Yogi in India. Some of the classic tunes on the double album are Back in the USSR, Helter Skelter, and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's no secret that these recording sessions were some of the toughest the band experienced before their breakup in 1970. Ringo Starr actually quit for 2 weeks before he was persuaded to rejoin, and we're very glad that he did. Discount supermarket Iceland has had their Christmas TV advert banned for being too political. For their festive campaign, they collaborated with the environmental charity Greenpeace on an animated short film that features an orangutan to highlight the deforestation at the hands of palm oil growers. Here's a clip from the ad.
There's a human in my forest, and I don't know what to do. He destroyed all of our trees for your food and your shampoo. There's a human in my forest, and I don't know what to do. He took away my mother, and I'm scared he'll take me too. There are humans in my forest, and I don't know what to do. They're burning it for palm oil. So I thought I'd stay with you.
That's a very powerful message. Such a shame the ad won't be screened. Now, from our Banksy-esque art right here in the studio to some featured on our streets, Italian street artist Clet Abraham, whose work usually sells for thousands of pounds, has taken over street signs in Edinburgh city centre. The hacked signs include a hunched-over, smooching policeman, a one-way love heart sign because love is the only way, right? And also a sumo attempting to lift a no-entry sign. On his Twitter account, Abraham has said that there are between 15 to 20 pieces in the city. We assume the Edinburgh City Council approve. And finally, first AI news presenter has been introduced to the world by China's state-run press agency, Jinyu. The presenter has the face and voice of a man and can read any text typed into his software. While the presenter himself says he can read as naturally as a professional news anchor, the reviews have been mixed. Well, you can judge for yourself right now.
I will work tirelessly to keep you informed as texts will be typed into my system, uninterrupted. I look forward to bringing you the brand new news experiences.
Looks like you won't need me here next week then. Emma Louise, back to you.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Maybe see you next week at the Job Centre. Now, don't go anywhere, because right after these adverts, we'll be joined by the spoken word poet Banana Sharma for an impassioned poetry performance. And whilst we're away, why don't you send us a tweet with the hashtag #CultureShock with a photo of your favourite protest signs, and we might even feature them later in the show. See you in 2.
For a nice surprise, go to notonthehighstreet.com.
And look in the camera, everyone. Hold still, please. OK, 3, 2, you two in the back, stop it. You switch with the girl in front, please. Go with the glasses. Go with the glasses, could you? Yeah, just switch. And everyone look into the camera. And hold still. 3, 2, hold still. Go with the glasses. Hold still. Hold still.
Vagabond, you're in safe hands.
This man has just stepped on an HSE landmine. Meaning the second he steps off, boom.
What do you mean, boom?
He should be in pieces all over the field.
Pieces?
However, his posture is perfect thanks to the Healthy Back Bag, and he'll be able to stand still for hours.
Hours?
The Healthy Back Bag helps posture and saves you from landmines.
Oh, you...
Oh dear.
Welcome back to Culture Shock. Let's take a look at some of the tweets and photos of protest signs that you've sent in so far. First up, we have this from Flynn Hamilton, which was from last month's EU People's Vote March in London, referring to the Leave campaign's famous NHS bus pledge. And this was sent in by Sam Grabner from the same march, a callback to the recent Shreddy Banksy painting, which we're paying homage to in our studio today, as you may have already noticed.
I love both of those, and these are great too. This one was tweeted in by Megan Miller from January's Women's March. That sign really speaks to the little girl inside me. And finally, sticking with American politics, this photo came in from Charlie Clive from the March for Our Lives earlier this year. And there's a quote from Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani girl who was shot by the Taliban on a bus in 2012.
Thank you to everyone who's been tweeting in, and make sure to keep sending your photos our way. We'll still got another performance from Citrus to look forward to, and we're also taking a look at Ian Hislop's I Object exhibition at the British Museum.
But first, poetry and spoken word have tackled political issues from the earliest times, from the Roman poet Horace right through to topical beat poetry of Allen Ginsberg and the lyrics of rappers like Kendrick Lamar and Childish Gambino. Artists have always used their pens and their voices to protest and object against the status quo and the injustices of the world.
Now, here to explore ideas of colonialism, revolution and freedom, we're joined by spoken word poet Banana Sharma with a performance of her piece, Medicinal Motherland.
Sensory attack, I was prepared for a few changes. Unbeknown to which form, but craving changes, release from mental cages, my imagination rendered in these pages. My very own history polluted through the ages, why would I not be bitter? Oh, to be bitter and British in a land where life breathes. Blind to my roots, burning bright like saffron seeds, 'cause my homeland reeks regiment like a royal blue. The cohesion of both teases me like a clue. Hybrid identity, diasporic serenity, please tell me which entity has any credibility and deserves the end of me. Medicinal motherland, I've come soothe my pain. There's so much confusion in my identity, yet so much power behind my name. Medicinal motherland, I've come soothe my pain. There's so much confusion in my identity, yet so much power behind my name. Now, there may be a shift in consciousness and we may be more aware of the disproportion, but philosophizing with no action won't mend the historic distortion. Addiction and consumerism don't help our names raution. Our scriptures bear victim to faithless contortion. We've got life givers protesting about their rights to abortion. We've got barren land and pesticides filling our earth's portion. They've got power and wealth from our people's deprivation and extortion, and this was all conducted consciously with no compassion or remorse. 1757, they knew they struck gold and halted their excursion. Cue the beginning of 200 years of violent incursion. Businessmen to beggars, it was justice's perversion. 30% of world trade to importing due to subversion. 30 million Indians dying from British inertia, the vulnerable and helpless targeted for conversion. It's 2018, are our people not yet due their reapportion? It's 2018, will the liars and deceivers face its reversion? Will the lies and deceit face its inevitable interversion? Because it's about reparations for a nation whose partition saw the largest mass migration in human history. While 100,000 became refugees, 14 million still remain a mystery. 1.5 million of us with the responsibility to recollect. 1.5 million British Indians whose homeland was under threat. 125 billion pounds our forefathers are owed in just war debt. And it's not just financial, it's psychological, don't neglect. It's emotional, it's academic, it's intellectual debt. Now they're trying to claim our narrative so we can jump on their TV sets. Do you really have the heart to chase Western wealth and forget? Because justice starts with us. How much more needs to happen until we have enough evidence to kick up a fuss? The treachery, the butchery, the alienation of our own. And our children will reap the fruits of the seeds which we've sown unless Monsanto poison all the crops which we've grown with mercury for a murky creed. That's how Churchill would have put it. A beastly bunch with a beastly religion, that's exactly how he said it. But I come from a land where all kneel to pray, cross legs to eat food, Vajrasan to digest the feast and crouch to number 2. I question whether we're aware and able enough in the West to comprehend life's test and untangle this mess we've made of this vehicle with which we're blessed. A great Shaheed once said that justice can't be served to anybody without the motive being released. If the motive is concealed, even generals and officers are judged as murderers and thieves. But justice wasn't served to our martyrs. Justice wasn't served to our man. Justice isn't served to our mothers. Justice isn't served to our land. No monetary return will clean the colour of our bloody rivers, console our mourning sisters, or cleanse the pollution in our soil which quivers. But it is our duty to recollect lest we forget. May the compassion which carried Shaheed Bhagat Singh from Lahore to Jallianwala Bagh course through our veins. May the strength to support political truth fill our hearts and brains. May the sacrifices of our ancestors be honoured again and again. May this responsibility we have light up and pave our way to more truth, more unity, and more peace. Shaheed Bhagat Singh's last words before he was exiled at the tender age of 24 was a call for revolution. But maybe it's time for us to realise that that revolution must first occur within us. Inqilab Zindabad.
Wow, so powerful. What a fantastic performance. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And be sure to check out bananasharma.com for more fantastic pieces like that.
Now, today, the 9th of November, is 2 years to the day since we all woke up in a state of disbelief that Donald Trump had won the election to become the 45th president of the United States of America. Since that day, America has been mired in protests and controversies. From immigration bans to white supremacist rallies to women's rights marches, the Trump presidency has seen a sharp increase in protest and objection online and on the streets across the world.
With this in mind, Private Eye editor and Have I Got News for You team captain Ian Hislop has curated I Object, a new exhibition that focuses on the search for dissent. We sent journalist Alex Cartledge out to the British Museum to take a look, and he now joins us live in the studio. Hi, Alex.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
How are you?
Yeah,
Hi.
good,
So
thanks.
I want to ask, I Object feels really well timed.
Yeah.
Does it focus on current protests like we've been talking about today as much as history?
Yeah, I think the reason why it's come out now in 2018 is definitely because of what we've seen over the last few years with political protest and objection. There's quite a lot of coverage at the exhibition about the Trump election and the Trump sort of campaign and presidency. You've got sort of like there's a badge which says "Make America Gay Again," which is sort of a kind of a sort of reclaiming the sort of MAGA slogan basically in a much more positive way. There's also the pussy hat, which was which sort of was really used a lot in the Women's March and sort of shows like it's a lot of passion for women's rights and women's issues, human rights. And they sort of definitely got a lot more traction when the whole Billy Bush Trump controversy happened during that election campaign.
Great, it's good. It's great that that includes these items.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So would you say clothing and outward appearances are quite a main focus at the exhibition?
Yeah, definitely. As well as this, there's also, for example, there's a photograph called Bad Hijab, which sort of shows, here you can see it, it shows a sort of protest that was happening in Iran, that women were sort of dressing up as men as a protest against sort of the expectation and demands that they wear hijabs. So it shows that that protest like this is not just happening in the UK and in the US, it's happening all over in different cultures and societies, and it's not just kept to the sort of Western world, really.
Yeah.
You've spoken a lot about protests. Are there any other forms of dissent covered, like smaller, subtler acts?
Yeah, definitely. There are, it sort of ranges from small things such as like Chinese teapots with hidden messages on them, like that one, for example, to sort of banknotes of hidden messages, through to things sort of like sort of bricks, and also like a Bible where it claims, I mean, I don't know, but it claims that it says that there's been it deliberately omitted a word so that it allows you to have adultery. I mean, I'm not really... I think it's a typo. I'm pretty certain that that's not what someone actually meant to do.
Yeah. Great. So, I mean, in this current age, it's so easy to protest online, on social media, especially with what's going on in the world with Trump and Brexit. What were people doing to protest hundreds of years ago?
Wow. There's a sort of a brick from the Egyptian times, so thousands of years ago, which, as you can see, is quite graphic, and it's of two people having sex. And
so things haven't changed much from high school.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen that drawn on a sort of biology textbook when I was about 14, so it's good to know that even thousands of years ago, they were still taking the mick out of the biology teacher.
Yeah, excellent.
So, I mean, Descent is historically quite left-wing in nature, isn't it? So is there an overwhelmingly left-wing tone to the exhibition?
Yes, I would say so. It definitely features a lot of sort of protest that now, in retrospect, we see was on the right side of history, as in the left, well, you know, the right side of history. But I guess for us, there are some things in there which still that are on sort of more the right wing of the spectrum. For example, there are some badges, anti-Hillary Clinton badges, which are in the sort of Trump roundup, and there's also coverage of the sort of an anti-suffrage movement that happened, which there's sort of a newsletter there called like Against Women's Suffrage, which basically shows that sort of in the late 19th, early 20th centuries, there was a lot of people argue basically against women's suffrage and against the right to vote for women. Well, it sort of seems to explain that it came a lot from women, and that a lot of the views was to do with sort of class issues, middle class, but also the idea that being able to vote didn't necessarily equate to, you know, equality. But I think it's good to know that now. I think we didn't go with that, and obviously, as we all know, democracy does sort of equate to equality, and those are like great things that we have.
So does all this talk about historical protests like that anti-suffrage thing, does it make you optimistic about the present and for the future?
It makes me glad to think that it's always sort of been the case, and that we're not, you know, I mean, it sort of, it makes you good to think, it makes you sort of happy to think that people have always been standing up and fighting for what's right. It doesn't necessarily make me optimistic that what's going to happen now is going to make a change, but I think it's good to see it's always carrying on and we're still keeping the spirit going. And, you know, it's good to know that we, when in 100 years they do another exhibition, we'll be able to still be there as a piece of history that stood up and fought
with
what was
like-minded
happening.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. Right. And just finally, Alex, I believe the British Museum doesn't exactly get away scot-free in the exhibition. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, our old friend Banksy's back at it again. He's there. There's a little piece here called Wall Art, and basically what that is a few years ago, Banksy managed to somehow insert that, which is sort of caveman-style piece of art, which obviously has got a shopping trolley in it, and managed to insert it into the British Museum, and no one apparently noticed for weeks, apparently. Wow. So, I mean, as well as showing sort of objection and protest against sort of the establishment in terms of governments, it's good to see that there's also a sort of wry awareness that there's some protest against establishment things like the British Museum.
Oh, he's sneaky, that Banksy.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Alex, and make an effort to see I Object, which is Ian Hislop's Search for Dissent, running at the British Museum until January the 20th. It really is worth paying a visit and getting inspired to make your voices heard.
Now we're going to take our second and final commercial break. So whilst we're gone, it's your last chance to tweet us with the hashtag #CultureShock with photos of your favourite political signs and protest signs. Now, we might just feature it, so see you guys back here in 2.
Shake the monster off your back. Get the healthy back bag.
Frankincense. Gold.
Oh my God, that is proper nice.
Oh, you like that, darling? Just a really good website.
Meet Sarah. She's backpacking on her gap year. She's a vagabander, all her medical details stored safely on her wrist, should she get into any heated situations, deep water, trouble with locals, perhaps a nasty sting. maybe takes a tumble, or any other calamity along her travels, the Vagaband remains indestructible. Unlike Sarah, she's a puppet.
For the final time tonight, welcome back to Culture Shock. Let's just take a quick final look at the tweets and photos you've been sending in today. This first one came in from Louise Kentleton, which is a little montage from the People's Vote March. ABBA, Alan Partridge and The Simpsons. They clearly know the way to my heart. And then there was this one sent in by Lanikai Torrens from the Women's March, which shows that if canines know the rules of consent, so should humans.
Well, I'm with the dog on that one. Now, we've also been sent in this Mean Girls sign from the same march by Ellen Robertson. Trump should probably take advice from Regina and stop trying to make the wall happen. And the final sign and tweet today comes from Marcus Young. And this is a very simple but powerful sign from earlier this year in America, drawing attention to the sheer number of school shootings that still take place every year in the country. Let's hope signs and marches like these can help to make a change with things such as women's rights, Brexit and gun laws.
Yeah, we really do urge you to use your rights to get your signs seen and your voices heard. Two people making their voices heard are Daisy Freya Redmond and Luke Barisky from Citrus, and they're both joining us here now on the sofa.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, I should say firstly, you look so fresh-faced and young. How old are you guys?
So I'm 21, Luke's 20, our drummer Alex, he's 20, and Callum's 19, so...
Brilliant. And how did you guys get together?
We actually got together for a charity gig at our college. We were kind of put on the spot as well. We didn't have a name at the time for the band, so they said to Luke, if you don't give us a name, then we're just going to call you Luke and Friends on the poster. Yeah, at the time, Luke produced his own grime music called Grafters Productions. So he just kind of took that and called us Grafted. But this year we did a rebrand, changed our name to Citrus. We just thought it suited
It's a good name.
better.
Yeah. And how did you come up with that name?
Well, I was watching Oasis Supersonic documentary, and they come up with their name just like they just saw the word Oasis everywhere, like Oasis taxis, Oasis kebabs, just, you know, everywhere they went. So I went into work the next day at Tesco. I was putting out some soft drinks at the front of the shop, and I was putting out Oasis, which I thought, oh, that was funny.
Yeah.
And then I saw that was called the favourite Citrus. And then I was working the Bleach later on, and you know, just kept seeing it for the rest of the day.
That's a good story. I like that. Yeah.
One thing I'd love to know is how long does it take you to write your songs, and who's kind of in charge of writing?
Quite a while actually. Like it takes most songs, I'd say, take about 3 months to write.
Yeah,
I'd say,
it
on
kind of
average.
varies. We get song ideas here and now, we'll come back to it and all that kind of thing, so...
Yeah.
So, look, I believe you're very politically involved. Do you ever feel like putting your political views into your music?
Maybe. I might do at one point, but, like, I don't know. It seems a bit silly sometimes, like, if you're talking about the shrinking middle class and the establishment oligarchy over, like, a jangly indie tune. So.
It could work. Great. And, I mean, obviously with what's going on in the world today and in the UK, it feels like the world is almost ending. And obviously we had a lot of bands in the past, that, like Sex Pistols, that spoke out politically. Do you think that is a role of the musicians to do that?
I think it can be. Like, I think some politically motivated music can be so powerful, but I just feel like it's really difficult nowadays because any sort of political music you make, you're just gonna be hit with a wave of, you know, stick to making music, don't go into politics, and it's just sort of just might not be worth it nowadays.
Yeah, and maybe alienate some fans as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, on the flip side of that, do you think there are enough politicians at the moment doing enough for young people, like thinking about what young people need?
Yes and no. You have like a rise in populism on the left and on the right, which seems to be going, you know, against the norm, establishment politics, which doesn't appeal to the youth whatsoever. So you've got, you know, left-wing social democrat candidates who are like, yeah, really, their message really resonates with the youth.
Yeah, so Daisy, just before we let you guys go and get set up for another song, which we're really looking forward to, what is the future for Citrus?
I think we just want to continue to progress as a band, write more songs, you know, play festivals or tour. That will kind of be the dream.
Yeah.
Great.
Great. We'll hopefully see you next year at Glastonbury.
Thanks very much for chatting to us, Daisy and Luke. And Citrus will be playing us out at the end of the show.
We've heard a lot tonight about political art throughout the world, and our final piece tonight is no exception. Today, November 9th, is the International Day Against Fascism and Anti-Semitism, a fight which is still relevant in 2018. Because earlier this year, Italy was thrown into political turmoil when Matteo Salvini's far-right Lega Nord party emerged from the shadows to become a huge political force. Since then, there have been warnings about a dangerous acceleration in attacks on immigrants in Italy because of a climate of hate and fear created by Salvini.
Here at the National Film and Television School, directing documentary student Nicola Ivanovsky is focusing on humanitarian issues as well as the Sicilian town of Cetera, which has a large immigrant population. In this piece, Nicola tells us how his new film seeks to focus on Italy's recent shift to the right.
My name is Nikola Ivanovsky. I'm from Macedonia and I'm a second-year directing documentary student at NFTS. And my film is called Salvation, and it's the story of a small Sicilian village that was saved by migrants. The first cut of the film actually ended up to a refugee film festival in Korea in 2017. So they flew me to Seoul to talk about it. The Korean audience was fascinated by the story because they have, for the first time, refugees from Yemen, and they're learning how to deal with it. They have the issue of North Korean refugees or defectors coming, but they don't consider them refugees. So it hit the spot in Korea with the audiences. But what I wanted to go back is because of what is happening in Europe now. You have the ultra-right wing in power in Italy. You have a crazy Minister of Interior, Salvini, who is talking about closing migrant shops and sending them back home. And he's playing on the populist, fascist policies, not that different from Mussolini in the 20s and 30s, and not that different from what Trump is doing today. So I felt it was my responsibility to resurrect the story and show Italy and the world through this film that it's not true. They are not the other, they are not strangers, they're just people who are in trouble, much like many other people were in history. The migration phenomenon is nothing new. As a storyteller, my job is to show what I've seen through my point of view. There is no objectivity in filmmaking. The fact you're there with a camera, you're changing the reality. You can pretend that you're not, but you are. So we're always telling the stories the way we see them. So we are shaped by events in our life on a personal level, on a family level, on a social level, on a cultural level, on a political level, as we grow up into the people who we are. Our life experiences shape us and our view of the world. In turn, we go and react and respond to the world as storytellers, and we tell those stories that we deem relevant.
Thanks, Nicola, and everyone here at Culture Shock fully supports your work to ensure such violence cannot become normalised or tolerated.
Well, that's nearly all we have time for tonight on Culture Shock. A huge thanks to Alex Cartledge and Banana Sharma for joining us live tonight, and also Nicola Ivanovsky and Conrad Murray.
We're back again live at 5 on Monday, looking at how art and technology influence each other. So make sure you tune back in then, same time, same place. But before the weekend, to play us out with a song so new and fresh, it's untitled. One final time, it's Citrus.
Stuck in bed with these bad thoughts running rings around my head. What am I still doing home at this time? winding myself up, trying to unwind. I think I need a little time off from having too much time on my hands, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding back my plans. Think we all just need to slow down and keep our heads out of the past, 'cause life in the fast lane is getting a little too fast. Go to my bed with a half-drunk thought that throws the instant in head. What am I still doing out at this time? Why do I need to wander the streets to unwind? I think I need a little time off from having too much time on my hands, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding back my plans. Oh, just need to slow down and keep our heads out of the past, 'cause life in the fast lane is getting a little too fast. I need a little time off from having too much time on my hands, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding back my plans. Think we all just need to slow down and keep our heads out of the past.